Hello and welcome to Broadcasting Scotland. It's Monday the 3rd of January 2022 and this is Scotland at 7. I'm Andrew Wilson and a very good new year to you from everybody here. First we will have today's coronavirus update and then I will give you today's news headlines from Scotland and around the world. As of 2 p.m. today, there are 20,217 new cases of COVID-19 confirmed by a test, although not everyone with the virus will display symptoms and not all those with symptoms will be tested. The figures being reported today include a backlog from before the new year. Of the people who have tested positive, 1,031 were in hospital last night, 38 of whom were in intensive care. The number of patients in Scotland who have died from complications caused by the coronavirus infection was at 9,858 on the 31st of December. This number only includes those who have died having received a positive test for the virus in the previous 28 days. The number of deaths is not being updated over the holiday period. The latest UK daily figures were also not available at the time that we came on air today. But as of 8 a.m. this morning, 4,383,212 people had received their first dose of the COVID-19 vaccination, 4,017,051 had received their second dose, and 2,992,583 have received a third dose or booster. The legal settlement between Virginia Giuffre and Jeffrey Epstein, the dead convicted sex offender whom she accused of sexual abuse, is expected to be unsealed today. The unsealing stems from Ms. Giuffre's sexual abuse lawsuit against Prince Andrew, which she filed in the Manhattan Federal Court on the 9th of August last year. Ms. Giuffre has long accused Epstein and his sometime girlfriend Ghislaine Maxwell, the convicted sex trafficker, of forcing her into sex with Prince Andrew when she was 17. The Duke of York has denied the allegations. Prince Andrew filed Ms. Giuffre's settlement with Epstein as part of his attempt to dismiss her case against him, arguing that the Epstein deal protects him. Lawyers for the prince contend that the settlement contains provisions that bar Ms. Giuffre from taking legal action against many of Epstein's friends and associates. Ms. Giuffre settled her sex trafficking and sexual abuse claims against Epstein in 2009. In doing so, she provided Epstein with a general release of all claims against him and numerous other individuals and entities, Andrew's attorneys said in a court filing on the 29th of October. On 14 December, explaining why the settlement should be filed publicly, judges in the Prince Andrew and Alan Dershowitz cases said Mr. Epstein, as is well known, is deceased. The document is well known to Ms. Giuffre and, although under seal, has been available to all parties in these cases for some time. On the 29th of December, judges ordered the unsealing of the agreement, saying that nobody, including the representatives of Epstein's estate, had made any adequate showing as to why it should remain sealed. They said it would be posted publicly to the docket on or about the 3rd of January 2022. As part of her litigation, lawyers for Ms. Giuffre have requested documents such as proof of Prince Andrew's claim in a notorious Newsnight interview that he cannot sweat. Giuffre has claimed that he was sweating profusely all over me at a London discotheque on a night when she alleged that they had sex. Secondary pupils are being advised to take at-home COVID-19 tests before they return to school to limit the spread of Omicron. Those without symptoms should do a lateral flow device LFD test the night before or on the morning of the return to classes following the festive break. After that, testing should be done twice weekly. All LFD tests, positive, negative or void, should be recorded via the NHS online portal. Staff in schools and early learning and childcare settings should follow the same advice. Anyone who receives a positive LFD test result, those with symptoms, or those identified as close contacts, should immediately self-isolate and book a PCR test. The Education Secretary Shirley-Ann Somerville said, "It is our absolute priority to keep schools safely open and minimise further disruption to learning. To achieve that, we need the help of the whole school community. Taking lateral flow tests before returning to school and continuing to test regularly will help prevent outbreaks of the virus. We are grateful to schools for their continued efforts to stress the importance of asymptomatic testing. Parents of secondary pupils can also help by encouraging their children to make testing part of their weekly routine and, importantly, to report all results online, whether positive, negative or void. She continued, safety guidance for schools was updated in December in light of Omicron, and it is crucial that all the mitigations are strictly followed. These include physical distancing, one-way systems, and the correct use of face coverings. By testing regularly and following the mitigations, pupils and staff can all play their part in keeping themselves, their families, and their schools safe, she said. One of the architects of the Northern Ireland peace deal has said that Boris Johnson and the former Brexit Minister Lord Frost have risked all the work the previous generation of politicians put into the Belfast Good Friday Agreement by putting their hard ideological beliefs ahead of people. Jonathan Powell, Tony Blair's former Chief of Staff and the Chief Negotiator of on Northern Ireland, said he was concerned that neither the Prime Minister nor the recently resigned Brexit Minister seemed to understand or care about the fragility of the political settlement in Northern Ireland in 1998. He also questioned why Frost had made the issue of the European Court of Justice a red line in negotiations on the Northern Ireland Protocol, when it was not responsible for either the practical difficulties in trade or for the identity politics that has been heightened by the row over the Irish Sea border. He said it was irresponsible to stoke the fears of one side or another, or to fail to calm nerves about British identity after rioting on the streets earlier in 2020. He said, "What worries me is the casual political vandalism. They really don't seem to care. I mean, the damage that they are doing to the very fragile political settlements in Northern Ireland by posturing on things like the European Court of Justice, which does not matter to voters in Northern Ireland." Lord Frost had repeatedly threatened to suspend parts of the protocol arrangements using its Article 16 before he resigned as Brexit Minister, citing differences over tax policy and COVID restrictions. While the appointment of the Foreign Secretary, Liz Truss, to succeed him, Frost was initially read as a reset moment, but publicly she is presenting herself as the continuity negotiator. Powell warned the institutions of devolved government could collapse unless the British government focused on the practical problems created by the post-Brexit customs and physical checks on goods crossing the Irish Sea. While he doesn't expect a return to the troubles of the past, he said that Brexit created an ongoing issue in Northern Ireland. He said, "You have to face up to the fact that Brexit requires someone to get hurt. There is nothing you can do about the political issue of identity, given the history of the two communities in Northern Ireland, but there is going to be a border because of Brexit, and it has to be somewhere. No one's come up with a better idea than in the Irish Sea. If it is there, it affects unionist identity, and what you have to do is ameliorate the impact of it," he said. The SNP has issued a New Year challenge to the Chancellor to commit to immediately restoring the aid budget to the 0.7% level as the case for strengthening global efforts to tackle the pandemic grows. With cases of Omicron variant rising in the UK and around the world, the party's international development spokesperson warned that the UK's decision to cut support to just 0.5% of the gross national income delivered a disproportionate and deep blow to the world's most vulnerable and poorest at this critical time. Earlier, the spending watchdog, the Independent Commission for Aid Impact, warned that the ability of the UK aid programme to respond flexibly to the evolving pandemic has been reduced as a result of the government's aid cut. It is estimated that around £2.9 billion has been slashed from the UK's aid budget in 2020 and around a staggering £4.5 billion this year. Commenting, Chris Law MP said, "At a time when the UK government should be stepping up on the world stage, it has instead continued to ignore the warnings and shamefully shirk its responsibilities. The impact of the Omicron variant has highlighted the need for a global approach to effectively tackle the health crisis. However, the UK government's decision to slash the aid budget by billions of pounds has harmed the UK's efforts globally and delivered a disproportionate and deep blow to the world's most vulnerable and poorest at this critical time. He continued, "As we navigate through this pandemic, it is clear that no one is safe until we are all safe. As we head into the new year, I urge the Chancellor to heed the warnings and do the right thing and look to restore the aid budget to its 0.7% level, without any further delay or unnecessary hurdles." Scotland has the lowest percentage of earners earning below the living wage, as the Scottish Government work to continue the living wage in all sectors continues. There are nearly 1,800 living wage accredited employers in Scotland, and around a quarter of accredited real living wage employers in the whole UK are based in Scotland. Figures from the Office for National Statistics confirm that Scotland has 14.4% of employees paid below the living wage. That's the lowest percentage in the UK, and below the UK average. England has 17.2%, and Northern Ireland trails at bottom at 21.3%. Fiona Hislop, MSP, commented, "It's encouraging to see Scotland leading the UK nations in terms of living wage employment, and it's welcome that employers have got so emphatically behind the campaign. People should be paid enough to live on. That must be a basic principle of any civilised nation." Feminist campaigners in France are calling for tougher government action to combat violence against women and girls after 3 women were allegedly killed by their current or former partner on the very first day of 2022. The body of a 28-year-old military recruit who had been stabbed to death was found near Saumur in western France on Saturday. The local prosecutor, Alexandre Véran, said a 21-year-old man, also a soldier, had been arrested, and investigators were looking into a possible femicide, the killing of a woman by her partner or ex-partner. In eastern France, police discovered the body of a 56-year-old woman with a knife in her chest after neighbours at Meurthe-et-Moselle reported a violent dispute. The victim's husband was questioned by police and was due to appear in court before a judge today. And then on Sunday, a 45-year-old woman was found in the boot of a car at a property in Nice. She had been strangled. Police were interviewing the woman's former partner, a 60-year-old man who reportedly admitted having a violent altercation with his ex-wife, and their 24-year-old son, in whose vehicle the body was allegedly discovered. The mayor of Nice, Christian Estrosi, said he was devastated by the alleged killing and described it as a horror. The collective Nous Toutes accused the French government of remaining scandalously silent on the grim start to the year for women. It said an estimated 220,000 women reported conjugal violence every year, but judges had ordered the use of electronic bracelets in only 379 cases. Lina Ben Ahmed of Nous Toutes told France Info Radio, "These femicides are not isolated cases. They're not the occasional news story. They are systemic violence. The whole system colludes in these murders because it banalises and minimises sexist and sexual violence. That's why we are scandalised by the government's silence." In France, there were at least 113 femicides last year, an increase on the 102 officially recorded in 2020. In 2019, a record 146 women were killed. And staying in France, lawmakers from France's ruling party have said they will not be cowed by death threats that dozens of politicians have received over a bill that will require people to show proof of COVID vaccination in order to go to a restaurant or cinema or to catch a train. The new law, which would remove the option of showing a negative test result instead of being fully vaccinated, has the backing of several parties and is almost certain to be passed by the lower house in a vote either later today or early tomorrow. A tense debate in Parliament today highlighted what the government and the opposition described as widespread fatigue with the pandemic and measures to tackle it. The proposed tightening of the rules has angered anti-vaccination activists, and some lawmakers say that they have been subject to aggression, including vandalism and violent threats. "We will not yield," Yael Braun-Pivet of the ruling La République En Marche Party told Parliament, referring to death threats which she said politicians of all stripes had received. It is our democracy that is at stake, she continued. Lambasting what he called the selfishness of those who oppose immunisations, Health Minister Olivier Véran said the aim of this law is not to curb freedoms, it is to save lives. Last week, the garage of a ruling party politician was set on fire, with graffiti by suspected anti-vaccination protesters scrawled on an adjacent wall. The Interior Minister, Gérald Darmanin, has said that police will strengthen protections for politicians after several, including En Marche's Barbara Bessot-Ballot, went public with death threats. She said that 52 lawmakers had received messages threatening to kill them for attacking the freedom, adding on Twitter, "Those death threats are unacceptable." France has traditionally had more vaccine skeptics than many of its neighbours, but has one of the EU's highest COVID-19 vaccination rates at nearly 90% of those aged 12 and over. For months, people have had to show either proof of vaccination or a negative COVID-19 test at many public venues. But as infections with the Delta and Omicron variants surge, the government has decided to drop the test option. It aims for the vaccine passport to enter into force in mid-January, following approval by both Houses of Parliament. Back in Scotland, details of a financial package worth £65 million for culture and major events have been confirmed by the Culture Secretary, Angus Robertson MSP. The split of the funding is as follows. For cultural businesses, organisations, venues and independent cinema, supporting grassroots venues, there's £31.5 million. For national performing companies, for example for Christmas losses and touring fund repurposing, there is £2 million. Freelancers will receive £10 million, the events sector will receive £19.8 million, and museums, galleries and heritage a further £1.7 million. The Culture Secretary said, the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic is once again causing disruption and uncertainty in the culture and events sector, who have already been hit so hard by its impact. We have been engaging with the sector about the impact of the Omicron variant, and we are fully committed to supporting culture and events while they recover from the impact of COVID, and we are aware of just how important they are to Scotland, and indeed the wider recovery from this pandemic. These additional funds will help protect the livelihoods of the people working in the sector and allow us to give further support to freelancers, culture organisations, venues and our national performing companies. Creative Scotland's Cancellation Fund for Creative Freelancers opens for applications on Thursday this week at 2 p.m. And people living on Scottish Islands will benefit from community-led wellness initiatives designed to support them to live healthier lifestyles. The Healthy Islands Fund will help to deliver these initiatives with just over £1.3 million of Scottish Government funding from the wider £30 million Islands programme. The fund is managed by Inspiring Scotland, with 56 projects spanning across 36 islands. Projects focus on building local capacity to increase well-being, foster connections, and promote healthy and resilient islanders and communities, helping them to recover from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The Island Secretary Barry Goodgen said, "It's important that local communities have initiatives that can promote participation and equality in physical activity, as we've outlined in our National Islands Plan. We need to ensure that these are locally led, and local community groups are often best placed to provide these services on our islands. The projects that we are funding will help encourage people to live healthier lifestyles and improve their resilience. I'm so grateful to the groups for applying to help improve the lives of people living across Scotland's islands, and I can't wait to see them in action." And that was our final item this evening. In making these programmes, Broadcasting Scotland relies on the support of viewers and others who value our distinctive approach to news, current affairs and culture. If you would like to support us, and we really do need your support in order that we can continue to provide independent programming in Scotland, then please consider subscribing or donating to Broadcasting Scotland. You will find the link to do that on the screen now. There are other ways in which you can contribute to our work. If you would like to volunteer to work with Broadcasting Scotland, either behind the scenes or in front of the cameras, or in any other way that helps to promote the station, then please visit our website at www.broadcastingscotland.scot and send us a message there. Meantime, we will be here at 7 o'clock tomorrow evening for the next edition of Scotland at 7, so please tune in then. Thanks to everyone for joining us on Broadcasting Scotland this evening. I hope that you keep warm and keep well. Bye-bye.
What distinguishes Broadcasting Scotland from a website or blog, apart from our brilliant programmes?
Hi there, I'm Gordon Ross.
Are the costs we face to enable us to produce those programmes. These costs are significant and ongoing. However, our facilities are able to do so much more if only we had the staff. In the last year, some of our supporters have cancelled their subscriptions. In one way, we would prefer it if it was because they didn't like us, rather than it being because of the financial pressures which we are all under because of COVID. The really positive outcome of our fundraiser is that at a time of economic challenge in Scotland, we will use your donations to create jobs and in a small way contribute to improving the Scottish economy. If you want us to be Scotland's independent broadcaster, able to provide an alternative mainstream television platform, then please support us.
Scotland is going to be an independent country.
Just imagine what we could do if we had even 1% of the BBC Scotland channel's budget. Imagine. And then please consider turning your imagination into reality. Please support us if you can afford it.